I gave Corepunk early access a chance. A brand new 18+ MMORPG that apparently promises a nostalgic return to those old school MMOs of the past. Remember when MMOs weren't polluted with cash shops? When the game didn't treat you like a child in terms of questing? When leveling up really mattered and was an accomplishment? When crafting was extensive and had a huge impact on your character? All right, look. The point is, I gave it a chance. Get ready for my story of my adventure in this galaxy far away, getting lost in forests, getting killed over and over, planting my seed in grandma's cornholes, and finding alien titties hidden throughout the world. This was quite an experience, and I do have to thank the developers of Corepunk for reaching out to me and allowing me the opportunity to play the early access. That said, this video is sponsored by Corepunk, but that does not mean I'm not giving feedback. And to prove that I'm not being forced to feed you a bunch of nonsense with this video, I'm gonna begin by saying something a little controversial, and it's this. When I first started playing this game, I didn't like it until something amazing happened, and you're about to find out what. Let me share with you all my adventure in this game, what all happened, and then at the end of the video, I'll tell you guys what I enjoyed, my criticisms for the new MMO, and I'll hit you guys with my conclusions. The game begins, of course, with character creation, everybody. There are 3 races that you get to choose from. Each race has 2 classes that I could be. Seems simple enough. There are more races and more classes that you can play in the future, but I guess it's just because it's early access that we're kind of limited. Now, I, of course, chose to be an orc in space because I was feeling a strange itch to WOG! So I would go into this world with a shield and a spear. I was ready to go. So Core World is kind of like a sandbox MMO in the sense that you log in and suddenly you're just dropped into the middle of frickin' nowhere with not a lot of direction on what to do. I was just told to talk to some NPC, and I didn't realize that this big ass suit of armor in the beginning was in fact the dude I was supposed to talk to. I just thought this was a piece of scenery. So my little orc just wandered off into the woods and I started collecting stuff. I got lost for a bit. Eventually I found a campsite. I learned to make campfires to restore HP and mana. So I ran back to the starting point very confused, only to realize then that the giant robot was who I was supposed to be talking to. So now at last my true adventure could begin. And my adventure was simply this. I was told to follow the road. I ran slowly. I ended up fighting a bunch of mobs that kept trying to attack me while I was on the way, but soon enough, I made it to this large questing hub of a town that I immediately got lost inside of. I did, however, find this poster on the wall of these big alien titties, however, and that was nice. Did I show you guys the loading screen for this game? Look at this thing, man. Hot damn. I talked to a lot of NPCs, I got a lot of quests, but like with every other YouTuber that's covered this game, I had absolutely no idea where to find the items that I was being told to find, and I had no idea where to find the mobs that I was being told that I had to kill. There was this one quest in particular that was given to me by this grandma. She told me to go out and plant seed in these big ass holes that her son had dug. Dude, I couldn't find these holes to save my life. So I admit, as I was wandering around this village, wondering where to go, what to do, I got a little bit frustrated. I wanted a glowing dot on the map, an arrow telling me where to go, or some sort of further direction other than, hey, go kill some rats. Or like, oh, hey, go find these holes. Good luck, asshole. And guys, when I say that I wandered around searching for these quest items for a while, dude, I mean like I looked for a while. I was over an hour into this game and I was only level 2, still completely lost. And you know what? I might have stopped there. And I've seen videos of people that stop right there because they don't know what to do. And it was in this moment, strangely enough, that I realized something. It was like a neuron activated in the back of my brain. I was sent back to the early 2000s, back when I was a teenager playing MMORPGs for the first time, and I realized that Corepunk was not playing like a modern day MMORPG, and it was never meant to be played that way. This is not a game that's gonna hold your hand. There is a slow-paced grind to it. You gotta use your brain if you're gonna figure out these quests and figure out what to do. So, okay, I told myself, if I wanna succeed in this game, right, I gotta conjure up that early 2000s gamer, and I gotta let him be in the driver's seat for a second. And then guess what? Everything changed. Didn't know where to find something? Okay, I just asked the community where to find it. Still couldn't locate the quest objective? That's cool. I started narrowing down the searches field by field, eventually finding other quest items, objectives, and new quests along the way. I learned a new crafting recipe, but I don't have any of the reagents in order to make it. Where do I get this stuff? Well, guess what? The game don't tell you, so I wandered off into the forest to go harvest resources, because it's a crafting thing, so where are you gonna find crafting materials? Probably out in the frickin' woods. So I just wandered out into the frickin' woods, because why not? And sure enough, much of the stuff that I was looking for could be found with a lot of exploration and asking for some help, rather than the game just telling me. Now, in this great process, guys, I died, like, a lot. And let me tell you something, I really appreciated this. In my opinion, if I'm playing a video game, MMO or otherwise, and I'm not dying every now and then, if I'm not seeing like a game over sign every so often, I feel a little bit frustrated. I'm a little bit pissed off because I feel like the game's treating me like a frickin' 5-year-old. I want a little bit of a challenge. There are these packs of 2 to 3 mobs with abilities guarding these outdoor treasure chests that contain uncommon items, and they progressively get harder as you level up in the game. Speaking of which, I started leveling up. I'm gaining new abilities. I'm upgrading my existing ones. Oddly enough, I'm getting these steroid stimulants rather than gear, boosting my character's attack damage with each strike. I had to eat food to recover my health pretty much after every single battle. I was upgrading my food by like learning new crafting recipes. I sat around campfires with other players to recover my health faster, and this gave me an opportunity to actually talk to people. I started locating other areas to quest in for my level range that I had missed before just by looking over there and saying, hey, I wonder what's over there in the fog of war. Let's walk over there and let's go see what we can find. And I started finding these whole new questing hubs. Dude, this was like a genuine surprise for a game. Like, my wife actually appeared at my door and she told me it was time for dinner. Now, originally, I planned to play this game only for 2 hours, and then I would sign off for the evening, but 2 hours turned into 3, and 3 turned into 4. I was having a lot of fun, and that's because Corepunk was kind of like a window into my teen years when I was playing other MMOs like Classic WoW, Star Wars Galaxies, so on and so forth. Yeah, the game's slower paced, but that's just because there's so much to discover and so much exploration in the game. In fact, if you give the game a chance and you play it for a bit, you begin to realize that Core World is built around this like this fact. Like, everything in the world is interactable with. Go around the corner, see what you can pick up, chop down that tree, see what it drops. It's great. It's a game all about exploring the world and seeing what it has to offer, and I was hooked. So after a few hours of playing, what I thought was going to be another C-tier MMO actually impressed me a ton. I've even been playing the game further in between editing this frickin' video. What can I say, dude? I love the idea of going out into a forest, being chased by giant monsters while trying to gather resources. You run into another player, and then you gotta work together to take those enemies down and overcome the challenge. Anyway though, I kept leveling up. I kept doing every quest that I could find. I started exploring the dark forest even further. I started fighting higher level mobs and running from them too, let me tell you what. And then I hit level 5 and I was like, okay, I think that's enough for this session. So now I'm gonna dive into my pros and my criticisms for the game, and then I'm gonna hit you guys with my conclusions. Here we go. The pros. To start things off, number 1, this game is genuinely difficult. Sometimes it's kind of a pain in the ass, and I freaking love it because that makes it all the more rewarding. This reminds me a ton of old school MMOs like Classic WoW and old school RuneScape. I mentioned earlier, there are these chests in the open world that are guarded by 2 to 3 mobs typically. They've all got abilities. They can summon adds, they can poison you, whatever. There are high level monsters roaming in the forest if you want to do crafting, roaming amongst all the lower level mobs. Your abilities, they take a while to refresh after use, but the thing is, because of the slower pace, whenever you get an upgrade, be it like, a new item, or whenever you level up, you really truly feel it, and I love that feeling. Suddenly you can go back to those packs of mobs that were kicking your ass earlier, and you can freaking decimate them, and that's great. Number 2, the game doesn't treat you like you're a drooling moron. I said it earlier, you get a quest to craft something. It requires a bunch of crap in order to make it. Where do you get this stuff? How do you get it? Game don't tell you. You're smart, you can figure it out. Go out in the world, explore a little bit, or just ask the community, because I guarantee you somebody else was stuck on that quest just like you, and they were like, man, where do I find this thing? They found it, and they're willing to share that information with the community now that they found the answer. And even if you don't ask the community, dude, you're out exploring, you're gathering resources or questing, doing something completely unrelated, and then suddenly, holy crap, there's that first reagent for that thing, for that crafted item that you want to make. And it's great. Number 3, I love the isometric MOBA top-down approach to this MMO. It's very unique, it's very visually pleasing to look at, and I do appreciate that you can zoom in on your character and see them more up close. I'm glad that Corepunk gave us the ability to do that. Number 4. The graphics of the game look freaking awesome. I really prefer stylized MMOs over realistic looking ones, and this art style is something that I very much enjoy. A lot of people compare it to WildStar. If you guys remember that MMO, it was shut down a long time ago, but WildStar looked beautiful, and this game looks very beautiful. Number 5, the voice acting is very good, and the music is incredibly well done. Any NPC that you encounter in the game has high quality voice acting, and it really helps to pull you into the world. And the music of this game is a vibe that I personally really like when it comes to video games, and that is the music isn't meant to be heard, it's meant to be felt. And I think that Corepunk captures that really well. Number 6, there is this whole fog of war system that you might have noticed from the gameplay footage, where you're just dropped into the world and you have to run around and explore it. So this is not like other MMOs where you can just see everything in front of you and you've got a giant map telling you where to go and so on and so forth. Even day and night affects how far your character can see, and I think that's a really, really immersive addition to the game. Number 7, lots of exploration. The whole game is built around exploring around and touching whatever object you can interact with. Also, if you give the game a shot at some point, interact with every NPC that you encounter. Almost all of them have quests, all of them have a story to share. There's no NPC walking around without a purpose. Number 8, Corepunk has a super elaborate crafting system, and this is something that the developers love to boast over. The crafting system is so elaborate in this game, I can't even fully comment on it, and that is a good thing. I like feeling a little overwhelmed in a new MMO personally, not too overwhelmed to the point that it's not fun, but the crafting system in Corepunk was perfect. It was always awesome to be out in the world questing around or doing something and then finding a new recipe for cooking or for woodworking or whatever. It was a lot of fun. And number 9, the final thing, of course, this is very important for an MMO. There's a lot of players running around, especially when you're in like the hub towns and stuff. Lots of people hopping around here, there, and everywhere, questing, preparing for PvP, doing whatever, crafting. Lots of people running around, and that's cool. But now let's move on to the section of the video where I share my criticisms of the game, or just my heads up to you, the audience. So number 1, the first thing that I want to talk about, something that's more of a heads up that you guys should be aware of, is that I cannot stress enough that this is a slower paced MMORPG. This is an MMO that you are not going to pick up. You're going to be busting out quests left and right over the period of 15 minutes. You're going to be hopping into a dungeon, I suppose, and you're going to be done in half an hour. Corepunk is like an older MMO that is very slow, very grindy, but very rewarding. I mean, I played the game for over 4 hours and I only got to level 5. Lazy Peon covered this game a few months ago. His highest level in that video, he only got to level 3. It's a slow game, but that's what makes it enjoyable, at least for someone like me. The second thing, and this is another thing that you guys need to be aware of, like, there is a lot of exploration in this game. Like, I really can't emphasize this enough. And the game is not going to hold your hand. And this can be a con for some of you guys, just like the slower paced thing could potentially be a con for some of you guys. The point is, you're gonna get a quest that's gonna say something like, hey, go collect for me some copper pipes. They're located in barrels somewhere. And you're gonna wander around looking for these barrels for well over 2 hours like I did, and you have no idea like where they are or where to find them. For many of the quests that tell you, hey, go out and collect this thing, you don't even know what you're looking for. Like, you don't even know what the object looks like that you're supposed to right click on. And this, I can understand, could be a bit frustrating for you guys that don't just want to run through the world right clicking everything that you can find until eventually that copper pipe falls out. I will give some criticism actually to the developers after, giving it a chance, and say that I think it would be a really cool thing if next to the NPC there was an object that showed you an example of what you were looking for. For example, if a guy says, hey, I'm looking for these copper pipes. You tend to be able to find them in barrels. There's a barrel right next to him that you can break, and there's a copper pipe in it. So at least you know what you're looking for as you're venturing throughout the world. And number 3, I will say that I was a little bit disappointed in one thing with this game, and it is that you don't get gear that often. Now, after level 5, you apparently get a lot more gear. That's what I was told, but I only got to level 5, and then that's when my session pretty much ended. But I was really hoping that after a few hours of playing that I was finally going to get a shirt from my character. So I don't know how often you get gear as you're leveling up. I do know that most of it is going to be stuff you're going to craft yourself, so just be aware of that. You know, it's not like you're going to be out killing wolves and suddenly a pair of pants drop or a pair of boots or a sword. So that might be something that you guys need to have a little bit of a heads up on. And it's something that I do personally wish kind of maybe happened every now and then. The gear was more of a part of that 1 to 5 experience. Here are my Corepunk conclusions though. The modern MMO gamer is probably not going to like Corepunk very much. They probably don't want that slower paced, more grindy, more rewarding MMORPG experience, but to be fair, a lot of people really like classic WoW and old school RuneScape, you know, in 2024. So maybe there's a bigger audience for Corepunk than you might think. I mean, I played it, I was a little frustrated by it at first, but once the game really began to sink its teeth in, once I started crafting my stuff, once I started learning those new abilities, and I kind of gave up on this idea of, hey, the game's gonna play itself for me, once I really got out of that mindset, the game was so much more enjoyable and so much more fun. So I'm really encouraging you guys that if you do check this game out at some point, you know, today or in the future, that you don't go in with that mindset of the modern MMO. Overall though, I think that Corepunk was fantastic to play. I very much enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing where the game goes from here. A big thank you to the developers for giving me the opportunity to check out the early access. So I'll just conclude by saying I think that Corepunk is worth giving a chance.